Hello and welcome to today's webinar. The title of today's webinar is Creativity to Show the Way in Software Testing, and the presenter of today's webinar is Nathalie van Delft. If you have any questions for Nathalie, please type them into the questions field on your control panel, and I will ask these questions to Nathalie directly at the end of the webinar. You can type questions at any point throughout the webinar and I will address them at the very end. These slides will be available on the EuroSTAR website after the webinar, as well as a recording of today's webinar. You can join the conversation on Twitter at #ESConf, and our Twitter handle is @ESConf, and you can also connect with today's webinar presenter Nathalie at @Funtastic. So now, without further ado, let me hand you over to today's webinar presenter Nathalie. Hello, Nathalie.
Hi, Derek. Thank you very much for the introduction. Let me start off. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar about creativity to show the way in software testing. In the next half hour, maybe 40 minutes, I'll guide you through the possibilities your creativity has to show, both testers around you and non-testers, the way in your world of software testing. Lots of people think about drawing when I start talking about creativity for use in software testing. I bet you're thinking about it too, even if it's only because I show you a picture of a hand with a pen in it. But creativity is actually much more. I've landed this text from Wikipedia, which doesn't say anything about drawing at all. Okay, maybe it states something about a painting, which might involve some drawing. But a painting is just a product of creativity, but it could be anything. What I like to highlight for the purpose of this webinar is the impetus and motivational force and perception of association with intelligence and cognition. What is important for you to know that you don't have to have the skill to draw to be creative. And I guess most of you will agree, maybe to only an extent, that in your way you are also creative in your job. I bet even some of you have I am creative in their resumes with the intent to say that your future employers to say you think you differently and out of the box to get excellent results. Hey, the phone rings. You pick up and start taking notes. The other person starts to tell a story. You're focusing, and when you hang up the phone, a pattern has shown. Could be a floral, curvy, or just letters, blocks, lines. It's creativity helping you to stay focused at long conversation. Not doodling? No worries, you're probably focused all the way. Just a little sidetrack to get you thinking. Let's get back to the Wikipedia text. And another highlight. Something new, a product, a subjective value. It could be just about everything, right? Subjective might be tricky, but I think that is just the thing that starts the conversation. Subjectiveness invites to questioning and mutual understanding. I'll get back to that later. Could be everything, anything, right? Yes, it could be everything. It could be photographing, doodling, clay, music, film, using postcards to make a collage, poems, and painting and drawing. I'm sure each and every one of you can think of something that is creative in this way and are comfortable picking up. You are more creative than you think. Okay, are you ready? Are you doodling? Are you focused? Have your hands at your keyboards because I can't hear you. But I can read you in my panel. Let's try if the webinar can be interactive. It's kind of a Pictionary time. Just type what you think I mean with the pictures in the next slide. Yep, it's test strategy. Funny, right? That imagery can both substitute words but also have an effect on discussion. It's the basis of my message, because when you answer questions because of imagery or another creative expression, such as discussions because of it, it tends to stay in your mind much longer. Let's do another one. Are you ready? It's EuroSTAR community. I put a similar picture in my office and people started asking me why I put a train on the wall. And I started talking about EuroSTAR, the conference, and that it had a community, a blog and on the website. Loads of stuff for knowledge growth. Guess what? People started talking about the train and repeated the story to other colleagues exactly like I told them. Now, they're checking the site and they're interested in the conference. How cool is that? So we are warmed up a bit. Well, you can relax again a bit. Let's look at the technique that is probably familiar to you. Yep, it's a mind map, and it's already a great and creative way to make story interesting to people. I've taken this mind map from the Better Testing blog from Darren McMillan, but there's a bit of a flaw. Computer-made schematics are still a bit dull. This is again a program-generated mind map. About mind mapping, this one is actually about mind mapping. Notice your attention is drawn to the pictures already. See what's in the bottom. Mind mapping is also about creativity. Let's look at another one. These mind maps are hand-drawn. They are visually very attractive and invite the people to take a closer look. Even more than the already creative forms we saw before. Like art, they fascinate. And because they do, they also invite to questioning. And you are, of course, ready to guide them through the map. Is the purpose of the map to be clear at once? No, that's where the first mind map probably does a better job. The purpose is to start a conversation and to use this to make information more accessible. Creativity as a means to create a safe and fun place to ask questions. Let's look at another technique. In 2012, a group of testers gathered at Hereford and visited the Mappa Mundi, which is still a remaining original medieval map of the world. The Mappa has different layers of meaning and is indeed a piece of art. Topography, philosophy and perception of the world and its beliefs are mixed into a piece of display. Inspired by the map, they created the Mappa Testi, a snapshot of the testing world as they perceived it at that time. When looking at the Mappa, the viewer discovers more and more details and starts wondering what the meaning of the different parts are and why they are positioned there. Then the fun begins to explain and tell more about the detail, explaining, teaching and learning on the way. The Mappa isn't, like the hand-drawn mind maps, not intended to be perfectly clear at the first time. It's a piece of fascination and invitation to start discussing. You might not have agreed with me in this case, but let's look at a part of the Mappa Testi January 2012 from Hereford. The position of the detail is the right upper side of the map. The tree you see is the Garden of Best Practices, a persiflage on the Garden of Eden. You can discuss here whether you truly feel best practices are part of the area or just part of the belief, just like in the scripture and the concept of faith. Next to the Garden of Best Practices, show you, are the planes of alpha and beta testing, black and white box testing and the Garden of Metrics. Although these are next to a stream from the Lake Ethica, the software testing industry, no matter what kind of testing basics you prefer, is, at least I hope, populated by professionals that have ethics in high regards. a bit more down, let me show my mouse, there's the Demon Corporation, which attacks privacy. This is why security testing is important. Underneath that is the city of testing techniques. Testing techniques provide home for many testers, but could be a bit dull. This is why it is a gray city. Here we see some farmland with cucumber in it. This is the top of, then you see the top of Lake Ethica with the Campo Consolatio, which is the Camp Comfort. If you cross the Pillay of Terror, you come to the Chimera of mixed testing models, which are a bit above that. You can see the V and the W model, TMAP, process, picture, and Scrum. And in the left side are some bugs. You see in the right side, you see the map boundaries with the principles, which is A of automation. There's also Agile in it, for example, and you see the TMAP book because we find it influential books. Don't worry, there's also lessons learned in software testing there. You might not have agreed with me in this case, but as you have learned before, creativity results in a new product that is subjective to subjectiveness. There's no right, there's no wrong. That is why creative ways also have less argument and more positive discussion as a result. Another one, visual notes. This year there was yet again a testers retreat. And this year's visual notes were made of the things we discussed. The drawings, in total there are 4, reflect the highlights of the topics in the weekend. I have them on my wall in my office. Besides that they are a very colorful touch to the place, they also have raised questions and lured people into making remarks, making me explain what happened and what I learned. It lets me remind things even better and share and teach about what I learned in that weekend. So let's go through this imagery. This was on January 26th. We had a breakfast with bacon and it was sunny weather, which is also very important, but the most important discussion we had was about influence. How we got influenced by others, but also how we influence others. This is why they are very bright, colorful arrows. We had a discussion about various ideas and you have to filter them to get that one perfect idea. Well, perfect idea, very good idea. As testers, we are bridge builders between business and IT, or maybe within the testing discipline itself. The retreat is all about sharpening the brain. Because we were a bit chaotic, we wanted to raise hands when we had a bit of structure in the conversation. We had a lot of discussion about questions in testing. How many successful projects, doomed projects, are there numbers of that? Why has testing become so complex? Is it because over time a simple system became more complex? We had something to do about creativity, because smells could also be creative and will have a big impact in your work. Oh, that reminds me, I still have to read the annotated snark. And I don't have to forget that Julian Hardy has this great initiative called Kindles for Tenia. Yep, those are right above and below those big pink arrows about influence. Did you ever think about what and who influences you in the testing world and who and what you influence? So you can see this imagery has all of it from the January 26th in it. Like I said, I love putting things on the wall and I love being creative. Most obviously because it's visual and it's right inside. But I'm not drawing all the stuff. In my current job I'm introducing a structured testing process, while people, also non-testers, can cooperate and add things by sticking notes. Beats handing out a book with a process or obliging people to read the intranet or SharePoint and do stuff as they are told. It's new, it's fresh and most certainly creative. But creativity is not bound to art. It can be anything. Are you people up for a challenge? This is not the bell bin, but it's the ball bin. It's a creative way to challenge people. In those balls, which are from a candy vending machine, I've put in little notes with challenges for testers. Could be knowledge challenges, could be figuring out stuff, could be organizing sessions, could be improving some of the testing products, reviewing things. This is the ball bin, and they can pick up a ball, and if they have done the assignment that is in the ball, they get a little mark on a very big scoreboard, and whichever tester, or maybe even non-tester, has the most lines at the end of the year receives a little prize, which could be, for example, the testing mug from Test Obsessed, or maybe a t-shirt, or a beer package, or a good bottle of wine. This is also creativity to show the way in software testing. Some testers, okay, let's do another one from you guys. Maybe you can figure out what it is. I use all kinds of pictures from the internet. And in this case, it's glued together as a sort of collage. Can you figure out what I mean with this? Yeah, maybe it's a bit difficult. Some Dutch people might recognize this. Okay, so some testers might recognize these principles of smart test from Valori. I could have put in the words on a sheet on the wall. Like I said, I like sticking things on the walls, but the pictures are much more interesting. And I haven't used a pen or pencil to make it. It's just borrowed them from the internet. And I bet most of recognize and know what the next picture means. Like I said, it's picturing, and even jokes are creative. And most of you, I guess, know this picture, maybe with some less trees, maybe with some more trees, maybe with some added pictures of this. So this is a very, this message is still causing conversation, and is also raising questions, or maybe saying, well, yeah, that's the case in our business, and I say, okay, how do we improve it? Because we all want to have the same tree. And actually in my office I have this picture, and I have a beautiful picture of an oak beside it, and everybody says, why is that oak beside the other picture? And I say, okay, that's the tree we should all view. So we have to work on one perception and one view of one tree. So the next one is a very recognizable one, especially in the testing community, which is the cartoon tester. And he is also very creative in learning the way in software testing and making us testers think. And I guess a lot of people know the waterfall in theory and in practice, and it's a very recognizable picture. This one is very recent, so, and I think it's very cool because these pictures really tell a message. So this one is, I put in this two options. One is Martin Valacek, which is a developer who has translated a Spanish blog, which is very cool and very recognizable because he uses movie clips to have this humorous view on both developers, project managers and testers. You should look at this at a Friday afternoon or something because you're going to laugh your socks off. And we are very creative as testers, as is already shown at the EuroSTAR context, right? You should really look back at some of the movies that are there because people are very creative with their webcam or You can also put in different imagery and make one fluent movie just to make your message. And it's much more interesting just to be in front of people or showing slides. Well, sorry, I'm showing slides. But you can do a lot of things with cut and paste. Don't forget to reference all the material if you are using material from others, of course. But this is very cool stuff to do. And creativity isn't only pictures, but could also be movies. Could also be music, jokes, just what is beneficial to get your message across. So, like you said before, on the Mapatesi, this is the complete one. We have just looked at the detail which was on the upper right side. So whether you can draw or not, it doesn't matter if you want to use creative ways to show your vision. You can use whatever means that are out there. Just mind that the more creative it gets, the more curious people get, and you'll engage in conversation and questioning, which will lead to understanding and learning. This is the most powerful way a message or lesson in software testing can be brought, in my opinion. They don't have the saying, a picture says more than 1,000 words for nothing. Creativity will help you lead others on the way in software testing. So if you haven't started doodling, sketching already during this presentation, just go out there and try some messaging in an alternative way yourself. And I'm a bit fast in this case, but I guess you will have an early lunch. Back to you, Derek.
Thank you very much, Nathalie, for that presentation. Let me just open up my slides here again in front of me. Okay, so now you can type questions in the questions field. So we're opening the floor for you to ask any questions to today's presenter, Nathalie, and I will ask her these questions directly. So while you're typing in your questions, just let me bring your attention to our EuroSTAR webinar archive. A recording of today's webinar will be available in the EuroSTAR webinar archive, and here you can get access to almost 50 other on-demand software testing webinars. By joining the EuroSTAR community, you will not only get access to these webinars, but you'll also get access to over 600 software testing presentations, these webinars that I mentioned, there's over 40 videos, podcasts, ebooks, and more. This year's conference will be in the Swedish Exhibition and Congress Center in Gothenburg from the 4th to the 7th of November, so we hope to see you there. And finally, tickets go on sale from April 11th. So between April 11th and May 31st, you can avail of our super early bird prices, which will save you €430. And you can make even bigger savings when you register for a group discount where every 5th attendee goes free. So now let's just address some of the questions that are coming in here to you, Nathalie.
Okay,
and
I'm ready.
The first question that I have here, let me just open up here in front of me. Apologies here now. Okay, sorry about the delay there. The first question comes in here from Toby Sinclair and asks, would employers not look upon the time taken to draw such things as a waste of time?
Well, actually, I draw a lot of it myself at home. So it takes a bit of your free time, but it's also fun to do. When I draw something in my boss's time, which could be a problem, as you mentioned, at first when I drew something, it was actually the case that they said, okay, this is a waste of time. But then they started seeing people having conversations, which wasn't the case at my office. People were having closed doors, not collaborating with each other. So when I drew a picture and I put it up, I've actually put it up on the coffee machine, they started to have a discussion and actually have very much added value. So now actually he is waiting for me to draw a next image and to put up there because he likes to see what people come up with because of the conversations. So it's not a waste of time, and even it doesn't have to take up that much time, because if you have a very good image from the internet, for example, the cartoon tester. Cartoons are very great just to print out, just put it up there, and it has conversation value. So it doesn't have to take up that much time. And if you really want to have that kind of things like the mappa testy, yeah, it will take up a lot of time, but you have to do it on the weekends and just take your time and put in all the little details and have fun with it.
Next question I have here is from Mage Uden. Is visual notes an application that you use, or are you mentioning a concept only?
No, visual notes is a concept, and I actually drew it myself. So I just used a black pen and some colorful markers and just drew it. But I guess you can use PowerPoint or any other Paint or maybe GIMP, which are drawing tools, and you can just copy paste all kinds of imagery you find on the interweb or internet and just put them in the drawing.
The next question is from an Amy Schieber. Do you talk about creativity in team meetings?
Yes, I do, because I find it's very important that if people, sometimes we testers use a lot of jargon or are very technical based, especially if we have a programmer's background and not a business background. So I always say, so if a user or your conversation partner is having difficulties trying to understand you, please use your paper and pen and start drawing or visualize it with other examples, because it will make your message more clear. And think of creative ways. And some people are very good in sketching a situation, a real life situation. Some people are very good in visualizing with pen and paper. Other people are saying, okay, you know, it's like the song where they sing this and this and this. So all people have all kinds of conversations by thinking out of the box creatively and getting the message across. Because testing, let's face it, is not always that clear to other people that aren't testers.
The next question I have here is from Joel Franklin. Any points about Kanban?
No, I'm sorry, I don't know much about Kanban. If you look at it, you could see it as waste, but no, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer about Kanban. I could be smart about it, but I'm not.
Okay, the next question is from James Redhead. Do you feel that these visual aids are equally as suitable in a consultancy client environment as they may be in a house team?
Yeah, I can think it's rather strange if you come in and just go putting up all this imagery on the wall or on your desk. So maybe you should start out small and let them get used to it, because if you go in by suit and I have all these, even my personal mappa, which introduces me to the world as a tester, I can imagine that if I have a pink wooden frame with the colorful image and I put it on my desk, that maybe my assignment, well, would think a bit weird of me. But it is suitable, but you have to get people get used to it and let them see the value of creativity. Sorry about that. So yeah, you have to start small and not start putting posters on the wall and everything, but it has great value, even though yeah, people should get used to it, that you are having that style.
The next question is from a Michelle Lely. It seems that creativity is very time consuming. Do we need to analyze the return on investment and how?
Well, like I said before, it doesn't have to be time consuming, because you can also borrow imagery from the internet as long as you use the source where you got it from. I like to draw and have loads of time to make drawings, but I can also make a sketch just with a black pen, or if you have an iPad with a pen, you can draw very fast. Last year there was a woman in which was called Will at EuroSTAR. We did visualizations of the tracks, and she did a drawing in about 20 minutes or something of the whole track. So that takes maybe 20 minutes or 10 minutes, but imagery or maybe taking a piece of music and visualizing doesn't have to be time consuming. You can say, okay, I'm busy with this, because the Mappa Mundi, the Mappa Teksti, when I redraw it, took about 40 hours to draw, so that's loads of time. But it was also my hobby to draw, so I don't think it's an investment to do that, and it's my own time, so it doesn't cost my employer. But I think if you really do it in time-consuming ways, yeah, you should make a return on investment. But I don't think that's the point, because you can be creative and also in a small amount of time.
The next question we have is from an Anil. Is exploratory testing connected to creativity at testing in any way?
All testing is connected to creativity. Whether you do, you have to think out of the box in context. Whether you test traditionally or exploratory or context driven, or whatever kind of testing you do, you always have to take creativity in mind. If you are doing exploratory testing, maybe being even more creative can help you make personas or think about very odd ways to go through an application, but it also still has to have value. You can think of all these exotic users which might dig up some bugs which are very odd, but you still have to figure out also if it's value for the customer, of course. So I think in exploratory testing, creativity is as much important as in all other kind of testing.
The next question we have is from Marcus Laurent. How can I convince my team lead to start?
Sorry, now you're gone with the sound. Oh.
Apologies there, Nathalie. The question here is from Marcus Laurent.
Yeah.
How can I convince my team lead to start this drawing strategy?
Just start drawing and go to him and say, okay, can I try this out? Because I think it has great value, and maybe we should test it, because we are testers and we'll see how it works. I think that's the best way, because it isn't very usual to do all these creative drawings and everything, but it has great value, only you have to show. So you have to do some little bit of own investment and say, okay, let us try a bit and then just grow from there.
The next question is from Malden Markovic. What software can you recommend for mind map drawing?
For mind map drawing? Well, I mostly draw them for myself, but I think there's loads of great tools out there, and I don't have a favorite, or there are loads of free stuff out there that you can use mind map, but I don't have a brand that is specifically recommended, that I recommend specifically.
The next question we have is more of a statement, but I guess we'll look for your views upon it. A speaker expresses his thinking in words, and you as a listener reverse engineering his thinking as a sketch. This is bound to be a message being lost in translation.
Well, that's a good one. Because do you always have to express yourself in words? I think if you, because obviously I'm now in a webinar and I have to speak. But I think it's a combination. I don't only use sketches. I use a sketch as an entrance to have conversation, which is also about speech. A great example is, like I referred to before, I have a mappa testi of my personal self as tester. And when I started working here at my new job, I had this mappa testi on my table. And people came in and said, what's that colorful image? And I said, okay, that's me. It's you? Yeah, it's me. And then I said, okay, there's a big heart in this imagery. There's a big heart in the middle. And I said, okay, everything I do is out of passion. And my holy grail is ethics, because there's a holy grail drawn in the top of the mappa. And I go through the mappa, which are all the little bits. And after I go through the mappa, which is still words, because I explain it, afterwards they say, okay, this is a very fun way, and I know you because I explained the mappa in 10 minutes. So they have a very good view of me in 10 minutes. So it's very powerful. It doesn't say the message itself, it just helps starting the conversation, start asking questions, making the message in words more clearly by imagery. Or not only imagery, it could also be music, jokes, and that kind of stuff. Could be everything.
The next question is from Mohinder Kushla. Visual aids are drivers for good discussion, but it should be used in conjunction with other resources.
Yeah, that's just what I said before. It's always a combination of things. I think only speech, only imagery, only music, it doesn't just do everything. It should be the whole picture.
The next question is from Judita Enegri. How to start and where to start?
How to start and when to start? Well, that depends on what you think is fun, because I like to draw, but there are some other people who like to make movies, or there's other people who like to listen to music. So if you like to start with something, you should find something that is comfortable for you. So if you like, for example, like me, you like to draw, just go to the nearest bookstore, buy some cheap markers, buy some paper, and say, okay, what is, you come upon across a message you want to speak, or you say, okay, what can I do or draw, or what is the imagery that is associated with this message, and just start drawing. If you want to make a mappa, for example, there's I could put it. I think I put it up. That's a Dutch. Let me think. I will translate a Dutch article and put it on my website, or send it to you at EuroSTAR, which is a list which you can use to make a mappa. But you can also start using, okay, I have this process I want to follow. For example, if you want to use a smart test, I just put up the images of Stratego, which is the game, the Da Vinci picture, the Darwin picture. I just put them on the wall, and people started asking what are they doing on the wall, and I said, okay, this is our testing process, which I want to implement. And then people say, okay, what does it mean? And I say, okay, the first one is strategic thinking. So, and then you start the conversation. So that's a way to start. Or just grab, maybe you're watching a movie and say, okay, hey, this movie I associate with something I ran across, and just go to the internet, go to YouTube, find the movie, and just share it with the other team members, for example. So it just depends on what you feel the most comfortable with, and just do it, like Nike says.
The next question is from James Reedhead. How do you share imagery like this between the team following a review or brainstorm?
Mostly I have the original imagery I have in my office, but if I have drawn images, I scan them, and if they are long distance, I have a Dropbox. From the retreat, I shared the imagery also on Dropbox, which are all high-res, so they can print them in color and put them in their own office. Or just a shared directory with scans in it, or pictures taken from wall imagery. Could be everything. If you like and be a bit creative about it, you figure out the ways to share this. But mostly, if you do imagery, scanning high-res, sending it over and let them print it and put it on their own wall, it works best for me.
The next question is from a KC Casas. Do you follow any testers on Twitter or Google Plus whose work you enjoy or would like to share as a good source of ideas?
Whoa, I follow a lot of people. I like the cartoon tester because he does a great job on artistry. I follow some Dutch people. Dirk-Jan de Groot has some great stuff up there. There's Michael Bolton, of course, who has some sometimes very provocative ideas, which make you think very much. So there's loads of people who you can follow. Maybe after this webinar, I will start up my Twitter stream and share some more people you can follow who are very interesting. Because I don't want to take up much of computer space, because else the webinar will stop at this end of the line.
The next question is from Toby Sinclair. Could professionals not consider drawing or visual?
You're gone again. Could professionals, and then?
Apologies there, Nathalie, I got cut off briefly. The question came from Toby Sinclair, and it was, could professionals not consider drawing or visual creativity juvenile?
You're as young as you feel. Yeah, it could be juvenile, but I think it's very open way to show. I think it's difficult. It could be. He's right. It could be perceived as juvenile, but it also depends on in what way you show your creativity. Because you could also do a very professional imagery or collage, and in my experience, at first they say, okay, that's very colorful, but they get the idea and they say, okay, actually it's quite fun, and it actually shows some professionalism. Because if you saw earlier in my webinar, I also have the testing process on my wall, which is not a drawing at all, but is just a big wallpaper, and people can put notes up there, because it's a creative process to make a testing process and to add more opinions of more people. They don't see it as juvenile at all, because it looks way more professional, but it's also looking a bit more dull. That's also the case. But the perception overall is not that it's juvenile. Depends on the way you put on your style of drawing or your style of imagery. You could also make some professional art piece of something. Most people don't think the night watch, Nachtwacht, is a juvenile piece of art. So it just depends on what piece of imagery or music or whatever you use.
The next question is from Maj Uden. Can you explain wall deco a bit more, so as how to use it to invite discussion?
Okay, wall deco. Well, actually, one of the most familiar ways of wall deco is well, this is I know about Kanban or Agile, is the brown paper, where you show actually the you put something on your wall, which is big papers, and then you just say, okay, let's just put up post-its. Maybe you also can use imagery there. In this case, I use post-its, and what I've done is I've only put up the general idea of you have something, in this case, in my office I have a generic testing process put up there, which is you have something about planning, you have something about specification, you do something which is execution, you have to do some reporting, and you have to do some cleaning. And people are coming in and say, okay, we already have something about reporting because we do it this way, and we still missing stuff of planning, and they put up orange post-its or maybe a picture of the thing they're missing on the wall. And in that case, other people come in and say, okay, hey, I know where to find that, or I have a good idea about that, and they just change the imagery or just post it up. So in this case, because I only have one office, it works very well, but you can also use a Dropbox image, for example, and just print it out again and again, maybe when the status has changed. So wall deco is a general idea of not only using it in Agile by means of showing progress, but also using it in a different way to have collaboration and put stuff up the wall, because that's the most visual way for other people to see it too.
The next question is from Charlotte Nordenfors. Do your drawings inspire people in other disciplines like software architects, requirement analysts, etc.?
Yeah, they do. Because especially the analysts here are very intrigued by the imagery. We had I have one of the pictures of the testers retreat in here, which has large letters of it, which says diagrams and models, and a large penguin on it, because we played the penguin game, and the penguin game challenges you to draw a UML model to get the penguin safely across the ice. So I explained this to the information analyst, and it resulted in a session with where we are going to be together with testers and analysts to do this game, just to have understanding of each other's difficulties that we have with UML. Testers, how to read them, but also the misunderstanding testers have, because of they say you're always making mistakes in the model. Why is that? And by playing that game, because of the penguin on the image, it actually inspired people to cooperate more together. So yeah, that's only a penguin on the picture. So what's a penguin? Well, there's loads of stuff going on just because of a penguin, which I actually have to thank Graham Thomas also for.
The next question is from Rainier Doosan. I noticed you use iMindMap as a tool to draw. Are there other good tools you use when not doing hand painting? Well, actually, I didn't draw any of the mind maps that are in my presentation. Like I said, I ripped them off a blog. Because I'm one of the person who draws by hand, and there was an earlier question who also asked me if there were great tools. Maybe for drawing I mostly use GIMP or just Paint, so very simplistic. I don't use any high-end stuff, just the free stuff that's already there. And mind mapping I mostly do by hand. The next question we have, oh, apologies.
Sorry.
The next question I have here is from James Reedhead. Would you advocate using these visuals in professional documents?
Yeah, I would. Because actually they're quite fun and they inspire, but you also have to explain. If you have official documents, if you have a chapter and you want to explain something, maybe it could be a trigger, or maybe it will find, because if you have just a document with loads of text, people are reading it and after page 10 they are not interested anymore. Maybe you should have less documentation, but a visual can be very attractive, but also trigger, especially you have your little text in it, because it should be a mix, like I said. It should be the complete picture. So you have to do some explaining, but it will trigger people to be more attentive. So yes, I would personally put some imagery in there.
Okay, Nathalie, I think that's all the questions we have for today, so we're just going to wrap things up here. And
Okay,
just want to thank you for doing today's webinar. And we'd also like to thank all the attendees for attending. And we hope you'll attend our webinars in the future. The webinar is now ended. Take care.
Thank you very much. And I will show up on
the organizer.